Good morning, welcome to Morning Outlook. This is Kim speaking on Monday the 26th of February. So looking at the euro dollar first, and well, it's consolidated where it is. It's looking at the 4 hourly, sort of shows you how consolidated it got on Friday with a very small range. It's now sort of just pitched up a little bit. My thoughts on my questions really come in. Is it going to break Friday's highs there? Is it going to just run through the top of this little trend line that's running through there? Or are we going to see a bit more of a sell-off now? There are signs of sentiment weakening on the euro a little bit, but ironically we've seen a bit of a push through this Asian session, but it may be just through the Asian session. So I am looking at the potential sell side from what we're seeing there and the previous trend there. So we'll just see what happens. I mean, if it starts breaking above these prior highs significantly and starts pushing up, I'm sort of looking towards, well, maybe the reaction into the 100. It may be well worth waiting for and see what it does then. But you've got the 4 hourly 50 rolling over. It's as I said, I just wonder if this is a bit of a fake out move before we see a continuation of that bit of direction that started last week or the previous week there and it rolled through last week. So I've got a bit sort of a erring on a bearish sort of view, but I am very much aware it could break, as I say, start breaking through and push up a little bit further yet. A pound, similar picture-ish. It's pushed up a little bit more on the dailies here. Yeah, actually, sorry, dailies, 60-minute dailies. It pushed up a little bit more. It followed through on Friday there, and it's pushed through. Maybe it's got a bit more upside. It is going in to make up a bit of a Gartley sort of pattern, so it pushes up, well, perhaps in the next day or two to that sort of 41. Just eyeballing this 41.20 area. Sorry, 41.20, 142 even. If it gets up to that sort of area, maybe that'll be it, but we'll see. But for now, well, having a bit of a shove. To me, it's a bit more unreliable. We saw a lot of spikes last week in terms of price action both ways. It doesn't take too much to really get it rattled, and it may be one worth avoiding. Now, it has got an untouched daily and weekly pivot below. It's the only thing that really appeals and attracts me to it in a sense. But in the main, it's been very, very choppy. Dollar yen, really at the moment continuing in its original downward direction there. Maybe has got some more strengthening to do. Which, if we saw this, I'd prefer to see it correlated across all of the markets. But as we know, the yen hasn't been necessarily correlated with everything else. And it's a bit of a safety currency, so whilst the euro may roll over, yen may roll over with it as it gets some strength coming through and yen buying. So at the moment, bitty, it's lower highs, lower lows at the moment. There's not a lot in here for me to really, maybe a marginal, a bit of divergence, but of a soft nature. It never really came down too low the first time, so bit of divergence potentially sitting there. Yeah, potentially sitting there. So well, we'll see what comes from that. But a bit bitty on the yen, as is the Aussie dollar in my early analysis. It's yes, I had a little shove up here, but it's still sitting within that triangle that I've done on the dailies there. Maybe it's just got a bit more legs in it, but it is just sort of running through this sort of these early sessions here, almost up to its R3. It has broken some trends, higher low coming in, so again may have, as I say, a bit more upside to be had there, but it's done a lot of that through the Asian session. I'm not particularly trusting of it. And finally, the Canadian dollar. Canadian dollar strengthened a little bit. Yeah, it did on Friday end up with putting a pivot swing in on the dailies, which again possibly be strength, but it did it right into that daily 8, which it never managed to break, and it's sort of sitting around at the moment. Maybe if that breaks over, we may have some more downside there. But when you look at the bigger picture, it's still chopping. I'd say it's got more potential downside. more potential upside rather. It's a bitty old one, has been bitty on the dailies for a while, so maybe it could continue its rolling over. Everything's rolled over with it. It's been in a pretty straight line. I would be preferring, if I was selling it, to selling it into, say, the 60-21s as opposed to where it is at the moment. I think well, there's certainly a bit of divergence that appears to be shaking up there on the hourly, so probably well clear of, unless we want to short it into those 21s later, but for me it's a little bit overdone at the moment. Okay, news wise today, very little. We got Draghi speaking at 2 p.m. Due to testify, so we may see some volatility then, but there's nothing else at all. So there you are. Have a great one. Bye for now.